Shipwreck of the Carrack Santo António in 1527. This story is special to us because it is an extremely rare story, very little known, and its records were only found in English archives. It is of extreme peculiarity, so we searched for everything possible, but our desire to tell the story made us stop and make it as soon as we had enough content. I hope you enjoy it, have good information and comment if you already knew about this fact. Let's get to the story. We are in the period when the King of Portugal was Dom João III and the King of England was Henry VIII, and despite what is told out there, both enjoyed an excellent relationship. After all, the House of Avis had a very close relationship to generations, passing through the Black Prince, Edward III, to the support of the unlikely King Henry VII and the beginning of the Tudor dynasty, remembering that the wife of Dom João I, the Master of Avis, was a Lancaster. The Carrack Santo António was personally owned by King Dom João III of Portugal and was the flagship of his fleet. It was a carrack, the largest ships of the time and the first truly ocean-going ships. Unlike other Portuguese stories, the cargo was of a particular nature. It was from King Dom João III himself and very valuable, estimated at the time at £18,800, about 4,000 times the annual salary of a man. It carried a general cargo that included 8,000 copper cakes, 18 silver cakes, silver vessels and species, precious stones, tapestries, cloth and linen, 2,100 barber basins, 3,200 brass candlesticks, locks and weights, packaging segment, needles and compasses, musical instruments, 4 complete sets of harness for the king, pitch and tar, bronze and iron weapons, and other goods. It is believed that it included the dowry of Princess Catherine, bride of King João III and sister of Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor, but there is no confirmation of this fact. However, the cargo is a fact since the cargo manifest survived the shipwreck and was rescued along with the cargo. The Carrack Santo António was sailing from Portugal to Flanders, Antwerp. The shipwreck occurred on January 15, 1527, in a storm described as a great and urgent storm of winds and weather and the great outrages of the sea. Its master, Antonio Pacheco, deliberately headed for the lee shore near Gunwallow Bay, Cornwall, with the intention of running the ship aground, but it hit a hidden reef, causing the ship to break apart. The vessel had a crew of 86 people, but only 45 survived. The morning after the shipwreck, the wind subsided, and at low tide, the shipwreck was only 1 meter and 80 deep. Soon, the survivors regrouped and, like all good Portuguese, nothing would shake them. They prepared and set out to save the cargo that was personally owned by King Dom João III. The local population soon joined the group of Portuguese and not only helped the Portuguese with food and treated the wounded but also helped them to rescue and guard the cargo. For those who do not know, the English and Portuguese have been friends for a long time. They have the oldest alliance, but it only reinforces what they have had for a long time. Watch the video about the alliance. Anyway. Continuing. The English people have always had a great sympathy for the Portuguese and thus supported the survivors. Assisted by the locals, they managed to rescue part of the cargo. Night falls, and everyone retires under the protection of the locals. Everything was going well, peaceful and with good conversation with their hosts as the night progressed. Until John William, Miller, servant of Will Godolphin, and 2 servants of John Mellonton, captain of the Mount, appear. They arrived on behalf of their lords and stole from them. The next day, they returned and urged to sell the ship's goods as they would return to collect the money. The Portuguese promptly responded that all the cargo belonged to the King of Portugal. Personal comment, a strange custom of the time, right? But what would they do? without a ship to return to foreign lands under the rule of the local lord. Leaving this threat behind, the lordship's men left. The Portuguese then complained about the theft before the local magistrates, but they quickly informed that they could not have redress because this was the custom of their country. So they returned to the village that sheltered them, but now even more stimulated by the judge's denial, the house they took refuge in was broken into, and they themselves were put in great danger. Diego de Oliveira then decided to sell the goods out of fear of the consequences. He went in search of buyers, but when he found and made the sale, he was taken prisoner by them. Alban, Will, Godolphin, and the others went after him on their horses and rode through the country. But, of course, not before passing by Diego de Oliveira's companions and stealing everything they had, except their clothes. When the information reached Lisbon, Dom João III became furious. He demanded that Henry VIII immediately return his belongings, regardless of English laws guaranteeing that the looting of shipwrecked cargoes could be done by local lords. The cargo was his, and that's it. And the English King Henry VIII's response was immediate. He issued the following order. I commission to Sir John Arundel Trarez, Jas Arizi, and Rob Vivian, to inquire into the theft of a ship belonging to John, King of Portugal, which was wrecked on the coast of Cornwall on January 18. Hen. 8. That is, Henry VIII quickly ordered the establishment of the Court of Star Chamber. A Star Chamber was an English court that sat at the Royal Palace of Westminster, from the late 15th century until the mid-17th century, circa 1641, and was composed of privy councillors and judges of customary law. It was originally established to ensure the fair application of laws against socially and politically prominent persons powerful enough that the common courts hesitated to convict them of their crimes. However, it became synonymous with social and political oppression by the arbitrary use and abuse of the power it exercised. In modern times, legal or administrative bodies with strict and arbitrary decisions, without due process rights for the accused and secret proceedings, are sometimes metaphorically called star chambers. That is, Dom João III asks for the return of his goods, and Henry VIII quickly grants it by establishing an investigative court. Now for the bad part. The verdict of the court is not in the British archives, and we find nothing about the outcome, but you know that this channel involves investigation and you help with the verdict. So let's move on to the later facts. There is no court verdict in the British archives and we have found nothing about the outcome, but you know that this channel has investigations and you help with the verdict. So let's move on to the subsequent facts. Subsequent dates to the end of the court and the conclusion of the facts show that the bandits at the behest of the local lord who robbed the Portuguese. William Godolphin was knighted. Godolphin House was considerably improved. Aubin of St. Michael's Mount became a justice of the peace. John Milliton of Pendrasett Castle became the High Sheriff of Cornwall, and Pendrasett Castle was also improved after this time. But most importantly, the important fact is that Henry VIII ordered that the rescued cargo be fully returned to King Dom João III of Portugal, but it is also a fact that only a small part entered Portugal. This raised the discussion for centuries that Henry VIII stole from Dom João III. Which would seem strange to me considering the historical ties of family and friendship taking into account the period, but money is money. But the fact is that only a small part was returned. But the twist came more than 300 years later. In the 1970s, a copper ingot was recovered by a shellfish diver, but the significance of this discovery was not understood until 1981 when another copper ingot was found on the beach. A team was sent to investigate and found that the location corresponded to contemporary reports. The site was designated on February 15, 1982 under the Protection of Wrecks Act, and local diver Tony Randall was licensed. As in situ conservation was impossible, a license was granted to conduct a salvage operation on any surviving artifacts, and human remains were recovered. Copper and silver ingots were acquired and analyzed by the British Museum. There are public exhibitions of recovered artifacts at the Charlestown Heritage and Shipwreck Centre and at Penjursit Castle. The material that was not returned is said to be at the site of the shipwreck. Theoretical conclusion. The Court of Star Chamber must have deliberated for the total return of the cargo that was in the possession of the English, going against English laws that gave the Lord of Penjursit Castle the right. But none of those involved were punished. Therefore, Henry VIII did not steal from Dom Joao III, thus proving the good relationship they both had despite current movies and series saying otherwise.
O descobrimento de Portugal. As histórias não contadas de nossos antepassados.